everybody. You have tuned into a podcast called Songs That Tell the Story, and I'm your host, Cindy Dewey Larson. And I will be talking with my parents, Lavoy and Cleon Dewey, and they write all these amazing songs. But you know what? Today, they're going to kind of interview me because we're going to sing a song that I wrote. Yeah. I wasn't planning on this, and we went to look at the pre-show prep and all the in our meeting, and I'm going, wow, you're gonna talk to me, you're gonna introduce me. So that's kind of fun. This will be the first one in our series so far where we do it this way. But hi guys.
Hey.
How's it going?
Very good. We're just plugging along.
Aren't we having fun doing these programs?
We're having fun. And the song you're going to do today, when you wrote that was, how old were you?
I was 15, 16 years old. I just turned 16. So
that's when
really
I realized that you were going to be a writer.
Oh, really?
And I respected that song so much because it was so well done.
We're going to sing a song. We're going to talk about a song, and I'm going to sing a song called Lord, I Want to Be Used by You.
Yeah.
And live, you played it yourself.
I did. I played this piano. I would sit down, and I'm not a piano player, but it was just one of those.
If you wanted to bad enough.
It was one of those studio sessions where it was so magical. Dad, you always had us the most amazing session players, and we'd go to the best studios in town. Was this at Oak Valley?
Yes, it was.
And Mitch Humphreys played the keys on this.
Just killer piano player.
And that piano in that studio is so world famous for that grand piano. Right. It was just such an amazing, iconic piano room in this town.
The studio was owned by Henry Slaughter, our dear friend.
Yeah.
He's gone on to glory, but he was a great piano player, so he wanted a really good piano.
Was it a 9-foot grand? I believe it was a 9.
8 or 9, something like that.
Yeah.
Could be a 7 foot. I don't know.
It was I believe I had a friend talking about this piano in this room on a podcast recently, and I'm like, that's where Mitch and I were. So normally, I'm going to give you just a little bit of information about how recording goes usually. We will go in and have a run through, and the musicians will chart it out, and then a lot of times most of the time the musicians will play the song with what we call a scratch vocal. And because this song was so real and unplugged and just in the moment, it ended up being where Mitch, the keyboard player, said, do we want to just try recording this together? And that was not usually what happened, but we did. I was the only vocalist on the song, and he was the only musician on the song. And we just went in there, and
I think you went through it enough to give him a chord chart.
Oh, we did. We practiced it enough, but just in the rehearsal time,
right,
there was just such an anointed. The room was just really obvious that we could go in there, and that it would be harder for me. When you're singing, doing a vocal with a keyboard like that, you're breathing together. So it has been my challenge singing with the track, and coming back to that. There were a lot of years that I didn't sing this song, and joining back with you guys on some dates. And you said, you want to do Lord, I Want to Be Used by You.
No, I said, I want you to do Lord, I Want to Be Used.
Yeah, you wanted me to. And I was like, wow, that's a thought. And so we practiced it, and I remember being a little nervous because when we would do it live, I would sit and play. So I was my own moment. I would stop and start, and I knew exactly when my pieces were, going to all fall together because it was me. I was doing it all, even though it was simple and it wasn't very fluffy. But in the studio, Mitch just, he was a master,
right,
and we just flowed together. So he fed off of me, and I fed off of him. And so it was a real magical recording. So it's been a challenge to do this with the track. And So thank you, Dad, for bringing the best musicians together. And if you look at our albums that 40 albums or so that
We've done 40 albums, yeah.
and you look at the credits, and it's just a who's who in this town. And really, even some of the recordings recently, we were listening to something in the car, and it had the London Philharmonic Orchestra
Yep,
on it.
yep.
So it wasn't just Nashville musicians. You would go far and wide and bring them
And I'd
together.
use the best arrangers in town, and I use the Nashville Symphony.
Yeah,
And then I'd send some stuff to Oklahoma City for Larry Benson to
yeah.
put the orchestra and the choir. Bill Hedrick would write the choir arrangements sometimes, but in the later years, I did my own choir arrangements and all that sort
Yeah.
of thing.
It's amazing. He can write out all those. Yeah, he can do all that. So growing up in your house where you guys were writing music all the time, it was kind of part of what I was around and used to. So Mom would just be in her own little world on the keyboard, and we would just be having life. We would be just doing things, and Mom would be creating a song, writing a song. Even on the bus, Dad, you had a little keyboard that you built, where some people would have like a workstation, like a computer desk or whatever. It had a lid that was a piano underneath.
A Yamaha CP10. It's still on there.
Yeah, yeah. The bus still lives.
The bus still lives.
It doesn't. It's alive, but it's not
Yeah.
walking at the moment.
It's rich in years, like
it's
us.
rich in years. It's precious.
Get the motor change out right now.
Okay. Well, we'll have to shoot some pictures, and there's a whole story about that bus. But we would very often, it was just a part of our family life. Nothing unusual to see Mom writing songs. And Dad would we'd practice for an album till we'd fall asleep in rehearsals. And
Well, I tried to do 100 hours, 10 hours per song, basically, to get prepared. So when we walked in the studio, we weren't wasting any money, any time. Boy,
no, you did not appreciate a funny bone. Mom and I would get a funny bone, and we would start laughing, and Dad did not think it was funny. He would say, "Time is money. This is costing me money. You kids just yee-haw," But that was our relief, our kind of tension relief, because it's a lot of work.
Even that was funny.
Even that was funny. Even Dad being mad at us was funny.
But it was a real compliment to me because you girls were tiny. You started singing before you could even talk.
Yeah.
And you made your first long play album. You didn't do all the songs, but you did some of the songs when you were 3 and 4 years old.
Yeah.
Susie was 3 and you were 4.
Yeah.
And then when you were 7 and 8, you began to sing with me all the time.
Yeah. How that came about a little bit, and we haven't gotten to the song yet, but this is just a little back history. I think people find this fun. But there was a season when your brother Tim and Aunt Cheryl stopped traveling with you, and you hired some other singers.
Right.
And in teaching them the songs, Susie and I had heard Tim and Cheryl sing these songs, and we knew them so well, we would end up teaching them.
I felt like eventually, because Tim and I had 2 males and 1 female.
Yeah.
Tim sang the baritone, I sang the middle, and Cheryl on the top. And but when they went into full-time evangelism, I hired 2 girls to sing, and I had a fellow play bass, and we rehearsed for several months. And we were doing the song "Turn Your Radio On," and there's a diminished chord in that. And one time, Cleon said to me, he said, "Honey, do you know that when we finish, that Cindy takes one of the girls and Susie takes the other girl, and they sing, 'Here's your part,' da 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 da." I said, "You're kidding me." So anyway, we made one trip. We made one trip out, and I said, "You know what? What in the world? I'm spending all my time rehearsing and pouring into these kids. I mean, that's fine." And they went on to be great musicians themselves. Mm-hmm. And anyway, you just
you would call. Do you remember doing this? You would call a family meeting. I loved meetings. I felt like we were, really.
Yeah.
I just have always been kind of skewed to love meetings. And Dad would call a family meeting, and we'd all sit down, and we'd have them about every year just to make sure we're still on board. And I appreciated that. Some of my friends who grew up in pastors' homes, evangelist homes, it was just, it is what it is. And you kids just are coming along, and that's fine, because kids they do what their parents do. But you always respected, you made me feel respected. You made me feel like I was heard, even though sometimes we disagreed. Back in the day, there was a commercial, Ford has a better idea. And I got named in the family Ford because I had a better idea. I always thought that it was a better idea. And you always gave me such dignity and made me feel seen and heard, and that's a common thing that we say. We never said it back then, but that's a good way to put it, is that I was seen and I was heard, even though you would challenge. I would challenge you, and you would say, if you can prove your point, and you can, so game on, like, challenge accepted. So all I have to do is prove my idea will work.
You'd say, Daddy, why do we do this?
Why do we
and
do
I would say,
this?
well, I think this is the best way, but if you come up with a better idea, then you let me know. Well, man, you have to work.
It was just such a good way to deal with me, because I had such a, I still do, but I was in training to be me back then, and I had to have been a lot. I'd have been hard to handle.
Well, and I think you girls are like 7 and 8 at the time, and we made this first trip out with these kids, and come back, and I said, honey, we're spending so much time and energy.
They were homesick.
So we had
anyway,
a little family meeting, a little family powwow.
Yeah.
And I said, you girls want to sing full time with me? Oh, Daddy, we've been waiting all our life to sing
All our
with you.
life.
Yeah.
Yes, I was 8, and I had waited all my life.
Yeah.
5 years on the, 4 years on the road.
Whew. But this song that you wrote, Lord, I Want to Be Used by You. I was just saying before we started the program today, when I was in college at Southwestern, I was in high school at that time. I went to Southwestern High School. During a revival, one of the singers sang, Jesus, use me. Please, Lord, don't refuse me. Mm-hmm. Surely there's a work that I can do. Mm. Even though it's humble, help my will to crumble. Though the cost be great, I'll work for you. Mm-hmm. And that's been our attitude.
What was the name of that song? And
Jesus, use me.
Jesus, do you know who wrote that? Or
no, I'd look it up.
Wow.
But it's been
probably PD, public domain now. You don't think it would be that old?
No.
It's been around a long time.
Yeah.
Jesus, use me. I remember that. Absolutely.
Jesus, use me. Oh, Lord, don't refuse me. Surely there's a work that I can do. Even though it's humble, help my will to crumble. Though the cost be great, I'll work for you.
Oh, how sweet. That was a beautiful, and that you were in college.
I was determined I was going to do something for God.
Wow.
I don't care what I was going to do something for God.
Yeah.
And
I love it. Well,
you better sing this song.
I will. Let me give a little bit of history about this song. So recently, I put a bunch of songs that I have written and recorded on different projects of the family, and a couple of things that I had done on the studio myself. Some producers had me in the studio for different reasons, and so I kind of put together a variety of tracks, and this is the oldest one on this CD. And I entitled it Photo Album, and it's really a snapshot of, several decades. But this one being the oldest one, I really set, and so let me just say that it's called Photo Album because I used to take pictures all the time.
Yeah.
And I would, I was kind of the family photographer, although you took a lot of really good pictures too, but you would be busy, and I was just always getting people's faces with cameras. And
you inherited my Canon camera.
Yeah. And we get home from a trip and have just rolls, a bag of those roll, and you just wait for the development, hoping that some of them would turn out. So in doing this project, I wrote out the lyrics of every song, and I put a story behind it and anything that I could remember. And this, and I plan on producing this as a book, so a coffee table book. I just haven't gotten it to yet, but I'm going to kind of go off of some notes, and maybe we can put those up on the screen. But looking over this, I was about 16 years old when I wrote this song. And up until then, songs that we would sing, songs that you would write were kind of traditional in the song pattern. So we would have a verse and a chorus and a verse and a chorus and
maybe a bridge.
Very later on, we started doing bridges.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it was, just a song structure was a song structure, and how many just start off with a chorus or start. And in studio lingo, it's a A, B. A, B is the whatever you start with is an A or whatever. And so this song really was a little different in that it was so moody and it was so authentic and raw. And when I looked at it written out, the first verse wasn't exactly the same length as or the second verse wasn't the same length as the first verse. And there were just some variations, and I thought, and I tried to fix it, and maybe today I would overthink it and make some of the words maybe
so
today
fresh.
I might not have done it exactly the same. I don't know, but it's how it kind of came together, and it just never could get fixed. It was just always going to be a tiny bit broken. And don't you think that that's okay?
Sure.
Yes.
And especially, we're used to songs being imperfect now and not cookie cutter. But in doing this project, I listened to my original vocal that I was, very young when I recorded this. I don't know that we recorded
Sisters
it right away.
Friends album is on. That's
Okay,
what it's on.
all right. So I was maybe it was about 2 years later, after a year to 2 years later, that we actually recorded it. But it had just been part of one of my lay in bed and sing this song. It was one of my heart songs, and very much so a heart song. And
a prayer.
it was a prayer.
It's a prayer.
But in thinking back and listening back, my original vocal was crystal clear. And now when I went in, all these vocals are new vocals. So I had a guy that worked with me, and he modernized the tracks as much as he could with keeping the integrity intact. And then I just did vocals. And I listened to my today vocal, and I've got like some age on me. I am now not a child and I have lived a lot. And so you could hear that. And then I thought, that's okay too. And I had to come to grips with the fact that, Jesus showed his scars.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes.
Like it was proof that he was who he says he was, and that he had been somewhere.
Oh, yes.
And sometimes we want to cover up what is not perfect with us, and we think that that's what social media or the world would expect as a perfect person. And that's not what anybody can relate to. What people can relate to is that I'm now, I've got some age on me, and my voice is not crystal clear like a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old anymore. And that's okay too. But when I really thought about, my mindset of when I wrote this song, it was really a cry. I cried a lot during this time. I had broke up with a boyfriend. If you know me, have known me a while, I've had some boyfriends.
Thank God you did.
And I
break up with.
I love me some boyfriends. And if you're now an old boyfriend of mine, if you're a wife of an old boyfriend of mine, believe them when they say we didn't sleep together. Thank God I didn't sleep with boys. I just really did love them though. And there was this boy that I really liked at this time, and I didn't stay with, obviously he's not who I married. But in the breakup, he was going more worldly. Like his interest was going, and I was straight line and I was so pure and just he was a preacher's son, so he knew better. But he was dabbling in
And
some.
your daddy had a shotgun too.
My daddy's from the South, and he knows how to reload. And
my Armac double shoot gun.
but this boyfriend at the time, he was playing piano for Barbara Mandrell and went on to play for. He traveled the world with Barbara and Dolly Parton. But we broke up because he was living this life and he was on the road and living this life. And he went on to, he passed away, but he lived, was very faithful to his church. And from what I understand, he was a great guy. And he was always a gentleman to me. But I was brokenhearted thinking that this is not my person. And I had to make a decision. Am I going to follow him and be worldly with him? Or am I going to stick to my guns and be who I am called to be? And that's where my cry was. And I would cry myself to sleep and I would just be like, Lord, I just want to be used by you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So anyway, in revisiting this song, I think I would write it exactly the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, I hope that you enjoy this song, and we're just going to close out with this song, Lord, I want to be used by you. What I say and what I do, Lord, I give you all my heart. Take me today, give me a brand new start, and Lord, make a way for me. What I do, let it be pleasing, Lord, to thee. Help me stay true. I wanna be used by you. Lord, I wanna be used by you. Take my life, make me brand new, Lord. I will do anything, tell the world with my music that I bring. Help me stay true. I wanna be used by you. I wanna be used by you. I wanna be used by you. Show me what's your will for me to do. Amen.
Yes.
Well, I think that's a wrap for today. We're just going to pray as we go out.
Jesus.
I'm just going to pray over you. And if you've got something that you would like for us to pray with you about,
Jesus.
Lord, I just thank you for each and every one in the audience
Yes,
today,
Lord.
God. Let us renew our hearts toward you.
Our commitment to serve you.
Commitment to serve you, Father God.
Jesus.
We want to be used by you. Bring us back to that day
Cause people to
when we
desire
learned
to be used.
what it was to be a believer
Yes,
and
Jesus.
walk the straight and narrow. And we thank you,
Jesus.
Jesus. We love you, friends.
Jesus.
Thank you for being with us today. God bless you.